Hi, Lions. I don't know about you, but it is my favorite time of day. I've been looking forward all day to continuing to read our novel, Wonder. Don't forget, we're reading to try to identify um, a theme or themes that emerge in this novel. And then also, we're trying to figure out why we think the author wrote this novel, what we think the purpose is. When we left off yesterday, we found two pieces of evidence to support a possible theme. And I told you when I was done reading, I would paraphrase those pages. So I did. On page 52, I felt like kindness was a theme that emerged on that page. And the reason why I thought so, because and remember, I paraphrased, so I put in my own words. In other words, I kind of summarized what happened. And I said, Summer, remember that was the girl that Augie met in the cafeteria, chose to sit with Augie in the cafeteria and help decide who else would sit with him. And I felt like that was exemplified kindness as a theme because remember, Augie was feeling really lonely. He was sitting by himself. No one else had sat down next to him. And then on page 61, I felt like perseverance also emerged again. And the reason why, because, and this is what I wrote in my own words, Augie faced each day at school with kids staring at him because of his appearance. Remember, this is when Augie talked about how he hated the month of September because in every class, every time he walked down the hall, people were staring at him. So I'm going to add these to my writer's notebook. So I need to find the page for perseverance right here. Wow, I just added my newest text support down here. So far we have 6 examples already in the story that perseverance could be a theme for this story. And then I'm going to find kindness also, and I will add that to my page for kindness. So that's our second text support for kindness. I really struggled as to whether or not this was an example of friendship or kindness. I'm kind of finding that the friendship and the kindness examples are overlapping. So I might decide later to merge the two of them. And something else. Do you remember at one page when Augie was describing how he felt and was feeling really bad? And I stopped and said, hey, Lions, can you help me and make sure no one feels this way ever in our school? And it pretty much brought me to tears just thinking about how Augie was feeling. And so I started thinking, you know what? That was such a powerful moment for me so far in this story that I'm thinking it could possibly be why the author wrote this story. Maybe that's a lesson that the author is trying to teach us. She, I should say. The author is a woman. And I went back, and it didn't dawn on me while we were reading yesterday, but I thought about it all night. And I was thinking, wow, that was such a powerful moment in the story that it might be trying to teach me as well as anyone else who reads this novel something. So the page number was on page 50. And I'm thinking the purpose might be the author might want us to walk away with the message that we should treat each other's hearts carefully and make sure nobody ever feels alone or unworthy, because that's how Augie was feeling. And oh my gosh, it made me feel, I very much empathized with how he was feeling and made me want to make sure nobody in our school ever feels that way. So I'm thinking this could possibly be the purpose that the author wrote this novel, and it's to teach me and anyone else who reads the story the lesson to treat each other's hearts with care. So I started an author's purpose page in my reading notebook. And then that way, if I come across any other evidence or if anything else really strikes me, that could potentially be the reason why the author wrote the novel. Okay, Now let's get started with our read aloud. Oh my gosh, I love this novel. All right, remember we're going to be reading the chapter. We're starting with Jack Will. I hung out with Jack in homeroom, English, history, computer, music, and science, which were all the classes we had together. The teachers assigned seats in every class, and I ended up sitting next to Jack in every single class. So I figured either the teachers were told to put me and Jack together, or it was totally incredible coincidence. I walked to class with Jack too. I know he noticed kids staring at me, but he pretended not to notice. One time, though, on our way to history, this huge 8th grader who was zooming down the stairs 2 steps at a time accidentally bumped into us at the bottom of the stairs and knocked me down. As the guy helped me stand up, he got a look at my face. And without even meaning to, he just said, "Whoa." Then he patted me on the shoulder like he was dusting me off and took off after his friends. For some reason, me and Jack just started cracking up. "That guy made the funniest face," said Jack as we sat down at our desks. "I know, right?" I said. He was like, "Whoa." I swear, I think he wet his pants. We were laughing so hard that the teacher, Mr. Roach, had asked us to settle down. Later, after we finished reading about how ancient Sumerians built sundials, Jack whispered, "Do you ever want to beat those kids up?" I shrugged. "I guess. I don't know. I'd want to. I think you should get a secret squirt gun or something and attach it to your eyes somehow. And every time someone stares at you, you would squirt them in the face." "With some green slime or something," I answered. No, with slug juice mixed with dog pee." "Yeah," I said, completely agreeing. "Guys," said Mr. Roach from across the room, "people are still reading." We nodded and looked down at our books. Then Jack whispered, "Are you always going to look this way, August? I mean, can't you get plastic surgery or something?" I smiled and pointed to my face. "Hello, this is after plastic surgery." Jack clapped his hand over his forehead and started laughing hysterically. "Dude, you should see your doctor," he answered between giggles. This time the 2 of us were laughing so much we couldn't stop, even after Mr. Roach came over and made us both switch chairs with the kids next to us. Mr. Brown's October precept. Ooh, I can't wait to hear what that is. And remember, we earlier in the book talked about a precept is a really important principle or lesson to live by. Okay, Mr. Brown's precept for October was, "Your deeds are your monuments." He told us that this was written on the tombstone of some Egyptian guy that died thousands of years ago. Since we were just about to start studying ancient Egypt and history, Mr. Brown thought this was a good choice for a precept. Our homework assignment was to write a paragraph about what we thought the precept meant or how we felt about it. This is what I wrote. "This precept means that we should be remembered for the things we do. The things we do are the most important things of all. They are more important than what we say or what we look like. The things we do outlast our mortality. The things we do are like monuments the people build to honor heroes after they've died. They're like the pyramids that the Egyptians built to honor the pharaohs. Only instead of being made out of stone, they're made out of the memories people have of you. That's why your deeds are like your monuments, built with memories instead of stone." Wow, that's pretty cool. Apples. That's the next chapter. My birthday is October 10. I like my birthday. 10-10. It would have been great if I'd been born at exactly 10:10 in the morning or at night, but I wasn't. I was born just after midnight, but I still think my birthday is cool. I usually have a little party at home, but this year I asked Mom if I could have a big bowling party. Mom was surprised, but happy. She asked me who I wanted to ask from my class, and I said everyone in my homeroom plus Summer. That's a lot of kids, Augie, said Mom. I have to invite everyone because I don't want anyone to get their feelings hurt if they find out other people are invited and they aren't, okay? Okay, Mom agreed. You even want to invite the what's the deal kid? Yeah, you can invite Julian, I agreed. Geez, Mom, you should forget about that already. I know, you're right. A couple of weeks later, I asked Mom who was coming to my party, and she said Jack Will, Summer, Reed Kingsley, both Maxes, and a couple of other kids said they're going to try to be there. Like who? Charlotte's mom said Charlotte had a dance recital earlier in the day, but she was going to try to come to your party if time allowed. And Tristan's mom said he might come after a soccer game. So that's it, I said. That's like 5 people. That's more than 5 people, Augie. I think a lot of people just already had plans, Mom answered. We were in the kitchen. She was cutting one of the apples we had gotten at the farmer's market into teensy-weensy bites so I could eat it. What kind of plans? I asked. I don't know, Augie. We sent out the Evites kind of late. Like, what did they tell you, though? What reasons did they give? Everyone gave different reasons, Augie. She sounded a bit impatient. Really, sweetie, it shouldn't matter what the reasons were. People had plans, that's all. What did Julian give as his reason? I asked. You know, said Mom. His mom was the only person who didn't RSVP at all. She looked at me. I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I laughed because I thought she was making a joke, but then I realized she wasn't. What does that mean? I asked. Never mind. Now go wash your hands so you can eat. My birthday party turned out to be much smaller than I thought it would be, but it was still great. Jack, Summer, Reed, Tristan, and both Maxes came from school, and Christopher came too, all the way from Bridgeport with his parents. And Uncle Ben came, and Aunt Kate and Uncle Poe drove in from Boston, though Tata and Papa were in Florida for the winter. It was fun because all the grown-ups ended up bowling in the lane next to ours, so it really felt like there were a lot of people there to celebrate my birthday. Halloween. At lunch the next day, Summer asked me what I was going to be for Halloween. Of course, I've been thinking about it since last Halloween, so I knew right away. Boba Fett. You know, you can wear a costume to school on Halloween, right? No way, really? So long as it's politically correct. What, like no guns and stuff? Exactly. What about blasters? I think a blaster's like a gun, Augie. Oh, man, I said, shaking my head. Boba Fett has a blaster. At least we don't have to come like a character in a book anymore. And the lower school, that's what you have to do. Last year, I was the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz. But that's a movie, not a book. Hello, Summer answered. It was a book first. One of my favorite books in the world, actually. My dad used to read it to me every night in the first grade. When Summer talks, especially when she's excited about something, her eyes squint like she's looking right at the sun. I hardly ever see Summer during the day, since the only class we have together is English. But ever since that first lunch at school, we've sat at the summer table together every day, just the two of us. So, what are you going to be? I asked her. I don't know yet. I know what I'd really like to go as, but I think it might be too dorky. You know, Savannah's group isn't even wearing costumes this year. They think they're too old for Halloween. What? That's just dumb. I know, right? I thought you didn't care what those girls think. She shrugged and took a long drink of her milk. So, what dorky thing did you want to dress up as? I asked her, smiling. Promise not to laugh. She raised her eyebrows and her shoulders embarrassed. A unicorn. I smiled and looked down at my sandwich. Hey, you promised not to laugh, she laughed. Okay, I said, but you're right. That is too dorky. I know, she said, but I have it all planned out. I'd make the head out of paper mache and paint the horn gold and make the mane gold too. It would be so awesome. Okay, I shrugged. Then you should do it. Who cares what other people think, right? Maybe what I'll do is just wear it for the Halloween parade, she said, snapping her fingers, and I'll just be like a goth girl for school. Yeah, that's it. That's what I'll do. Sounds like a plan, I nodded. Thanks, Augie, she giggled. You know, that's what I like best about you. I feel like I can tell you anything. Yeah, I answered, nodding. I gave her a thumbs up sign. Cool beans. School pictures is the next chapter. I don't think anyone will be shocked to learn I don't want to have my school picture taken on October 22. No way. No, thank you. I stopped letting anyone take pictures of me a while ago. I guess you could call it a phobia. No, actually, it's not a phobia. It's an aversion, which is a word I just learned in Mr. Brown's class. I have an aversion to having my picture taken. There, I used it in a sentence. So obviously an aversion means you don't want to do it. I thought Mom would try to get me to drop my aversion to having my picture taken for school, but she didn't. Unfortunately, while I managed to avoid having the portrait taken, I couldn't get out of being part of the class picture. Ugh. The photographer looked like he just sucked on a lemon when he saw me. I'm sure he thought I ruined the picture. I was one of the ones in the front, sitting down. I didn't smile. Not that anyone could tell if I had. The cheese touch. That's the next chapter. I noticed not too long ago that even though people were getting used to me, no one would actually touch me. I didn't realize this at first because it's not like kids go around touching each other that much in middle school anyway. But last Tuesday in dance class, which is like my least favorite class, Mrs. Atanabe, the teacher, tried to make Zamena Chin be my dance partner. Now, I've never actually seen someone have a panic attack before, but I've heard about it, and I'm pretty sure Zamena had a panic attack at that second. She got really nervous, turned pale, and literally broke into a sweat within a minute. And then she came up with some lame excuse about really having to go to the bathroom. Anyway, Mrs. Atanabe let her off the hook because she ended up not making anyone dance together. Then, yesterday in my science elective, we were doing this cool mystery powder investigation where we had to classify a substance as an acid or a base. Everyone had to heat their mystery powders on a heating plate and make observations. So we were all huddled around the powders with our notebooks. Now, there are 8 kids in the elective, and 7 of them were squished together on one side of the plate, while one of them, me, had loads of room on the other side. So, of course, I noticed this. But I was hoping Ms. Rubin wouldn't notice this because I didn't want her to say anything. But, of course, she did notice this, and, of course, she said something. Guys, there's plenty of room on that side. Tristan, Nino, go over there, she said. So Tristan and Nino scooted over to my side. Tristan and Nino have always been okay nice to me. I want to go on record saying that. Not super nice, like they go out of their way to hang out with me, but okay nice. Like they say hello to me and talk to me like normal. And they didn't even make a face when Miss Rubin told them to come on my side, which a lot of kids do when they think I'm not looking. Anyway, everything was going fine until Tristan's mystery powder started melting. He moved his foil off the plate just as my powder began to melt too, which is why I went to move mine off the plate. And then my hand accidentally bumped his hand for a fraction of a second. Tristan jerked his hand away so fast he dropped his foil on the floor while also knocking everyone else's foil off the heating plate. Tristan, yelled Ms. Rubin. But Tristan didn't even care about the spilled powder on the floor or that he ruined the experiment. What he was most concerned about was getting to the lab sink to wash his hands as fast as possible. That's when I knew for sure that there was this thing about touching me at Beecher Prep. I think it's like the cheese touch in Diary of a Wimpy Kid. The kids in that story were afraid they'd catch the cooties if they touched the old moldy cheese on the basketball court. At Beecher Prep, I'm the old moldy cheese. Oh, goodness. Again, treat each other's hearts carefully. I'm going to mark this page so I remember to go back and add that to my page in my reading spiral for support of what the author's purpose might be. Okay, the author's purpose for writing the novel. All right, I think we have time for this chapter. It is called Costumes. For me, Halloween is the best holiday in the world. It even beats Christmas. I get to dress up in a costume. I get to wear a mask. I get to go around like every other kid with a mask, and nobody thinks I look weird. Nobody takes a second look. Nobody notices me. Nobody knows me. I wish every day could be Halloween. We could all wear masks all the time. Then we could walk around and get to know each other before we got to see what we look like under the masks. Whew, I'm marking this page. I really think this also could be evidence that this is why the author wrote this story, to teach us a lesson. I think that is really powerful. Let me read that one little section again. So he was saying he wished every day could be Halloween because you could wear masks all the time. Here's the part I thought was really powerful. Then we could walk around and get to know each other before we got to see what we look like under the masks. I want that to be a challenge for us lions. Let's make sure we walk around and we get to know what people look like on the inside and not worry about what they look like on the outside. Whew, that's powerful. All right, I think that very well could be some evidence as to why this author wrote this novel. Excuse me. When I was little, I used to wear an astronaut helmet everywhere I went, to the playground, to the supermarket, to pick Via up from school, even in the middle of summer, though it was so hot my face would sweat. I think I wore it for a couple of years, but I had to stop wearing it when I had my eye surgery. I was about 7, I think, wearing it when I just lost my spot. Sorry. I was about 7, I think. And then we couldn't find the helmet after that. Mom looked everywhere for it. She'd figured that it probably ended up in Gran's attic. And she kept meaning to look for it, but by then I'd gotten used to not wearing it. I have pictures of me in all my Halloween costumes. My first Halloween, I was a pumpkin. My second, I was Tigger. My third, I was Peter Pan. My dad dressed up as Captain Hook. My fourth, I was Captain Hook. My dad dressed up as Peter Pan. My fifth, I was an astronaut. My sixth, I was Obi-Wan Kenobi. My seventh, I was a clone trooper. My eighth, I was Darth Vader. My ninth, I was the Bleeding Scream, the one that has fake blood oozing out over the skull mask. This year, I'm going to be Boba Fett. Not Boba Fett the kid in Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, but Boba Fett the man from Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Mom searched everywhere for the costume, but couldn't find one in my size, so she bought me a Jango Fett costume, since Jango was Boba's dad and wore the same armor, and then painted the armor green. She did some other stuff to it, too, to make it look worn. Anyway, it looks totally real. Mom's good at costumes. In Homeroom, we all talked about what we were going to be for Halloween. Charlotte was going to be someone from Harry Potter. Jack was going as Wolfman. I heard that Julian was going as Jango Fett, which was a weird coincidence. I don't think he liked hearing that I was going as Boba Fett. On the morning of Halloween, Via had this big crying meltdown about something. Via has always been so calm and cool, but this year she had a couple of these kind of fits. Dad was late for work and was like, Via, let's go, let's go. Usually Dad is super patient about things, but not when it comes to being late for work. And his yelling just stressed out Via even more, and she started crying louder. So Mom told Dad to take me to school and that she'd deal with Via. Then Mom kissed me goodbye quickly before I even put on my costume and disappeared into Via's room. Augie, let's go now, said Dad. I have a meeting. I can't be late for it. I haven't put my costume on yet. So put it on already. 5 minutes. I'll meet you outside. So I rushed to my room and started to put on the Boba Fett costume. But all of a sudden, I didn't feel like wearing it. I'm not sure why. Maybe because it had all these belts that needed to be tightened and I needed someone's help to put it on. Or maybe it was because it still smelled a little like paint. All I knew was that it was a lot of work to put that costume on, and Dad was waiting and would get super impatient if I made him late. So at the last minute, I threw on the Bleeding Scream costume from last year. It was such an easy costume, just a long black robe and a big white mask. I yelled goodbye from the front door on the way out, but Mom didn't even hear me. I thought you were going as Jango Fett, said Dad when I got outside. Boba Fett. Whatever, said Dad. This is a better costume anyway. Yeah, it's cool, I answered. Okay, last chapter we'll read for today. The Bleeding Scream. Walking through the halls that morning on my way to the lockers was, I have to say, absolutely awesome. Everything was different now. I was different. Where I usually walked with my head down, trying to avoid being seen, today I walked with my head up. Looking around, I wanted to be seen. One kid wearing the same exact costume as mine, long white skull face, oozing fake red blood, high-fived me as we passed each other on the stairs. I have no idea who he was, and he had no idea who I was. And I wondered for a second if he would have ever done that if he had known it was me under the mask. I was starting to think this was going to go down as one of the most awesome days in the history of my life. But then I got to Homeroom. The first costume I saw as I walked inside the door was Darth Sidious. It had one of the rubber masks that are so realistic, with a big black hood over the head and a long black robe. I knew right away it was Julian, of course. He must have changed his costume at the last minute because he thought I was coming as Jango Fett. He was talking to two mummies who must have been Miles and Henry, and they were all kind of looking at the door like they were waiting for someone to come through it. I knew it wasn't a Bleeding Scream they were looking for. It was a Boba Fett. I was going to go and sit at my usual desk, but for some reason, I don't know why, I found myself walking over to a desk near them, and I could hear them talking. One of the mummies was saying, "It really does look like him. Like this part especially," answered Julian's voice. He put his fingers on the cheeks and the eyes of Darth Sidious' mask. "Actually," said the mummy, "what he really looks like is one of those shrunken heads. Have you ever seen those? He looks exactly like that." "I think he looks like an orc." "Oh, yeah, if I look like that," said the Julian voice, kind of laughing, "I swear I put a hood over my face every day." "I've thought about this a lot," said the second mummy, sounding serious, "and I really think if I looked like him, seriously, I think I'd kill myself." "You would not," answered Darth Sidious. "Yeah, for real," insisted the same mummy. "I can't imagine looking in the mirror every day and seeing myself look like that. It would be too awful. And getting stared at all the time." "Then why do you hang out with him so much?" asked Darth Sidious. "I don't know," answered the mummy. "Tushman asked me to hang out with him at the beginning of the school year, and he must have told all the teachers to put us next to each other in all our classes or something." The mummy shrugged. I knew the shrug, of course. I knew the voice. I knew I wanted to run out of class right then and there, but I stood where I was and listened to Jack Will finish what he was saying. "I mean, the thing is, he always follows me around. What am I supposed to do?" "Just ditch him," said Julian. I don't know what Jack answered because I walked out of the class without anyone knowing I had been there. My face felt like it was on fire while I walked back down the stairs. I was sweating under my costume, and I started crying. I couldn't keep it from happening. The tears were so thick in my eyes I could barely see, but I couldn't wipe them through the mask as I walked. I was looking for a little tiny spot to disappear into. I wanted a hole I could fall inside of, a little black hole that would eat me up. Whew. Well, we picked a fine chapter to stop on. Whew. Um, Goodness. So, just to summarize, this last chapter we read, the one of the two people that Augie felt like was really being friends with him, he just heard he just heard Jack talking about him and saying how he would hate the look of the way he did, and that Augie was following him around, and he didn't know Augie was there. So I do think this goes back to teaching us a lesson about treating people's heart carefully and making sure nobody ever feels unworthy. You know, he didn't say it to Augie. He didn't mean for him to hear it. But anytime you say something, you should always kind of ask yourself, if they did hear it, how would it make them feel? It's never okay to say anything unkind, whether you say it to that person or to other people. So, I think we found 3 different pages that really support potentially what the author's purpose is. I think the author is really trying to teach us a lesson about how to treat each other so that people do feel valued and worthy. And everybody is valuable and everybody is worthy. I cannot wait to pick up tomorrow. Tomorrow we are going to read, you know what? There is only this last chapter before we get to part 2. Let's go for it. Okay? Names: Rat Boy, Freak, Monster, Freddy Krueger, E.T., Gross Out, Lizardface, Mutant. I know the names they call me. I've been in enough playgrounds to know kids can be mean. I know. I ended up in the second floor bathroom. No one was there because first period had started and everyone was in class. I locked the door to my stall, took off my mask, and just cried for I don't know how long. Then I went to the nurse's office and told her I had a stomach ache, which was true, because I felt like I'd been kicked right in the gut. Nurse Molly called Mom and had me lie down on the sofa next to her desk. 15 minutes later, Mom was at the door. "Sweetness," she said, coming over to hug me. "Hi," I mumbled. I didn't want her to ask anything until afterward. "You have a stomach ache?" she asked, automatically putting her hand on my forehead to check for my temperature. "He said he feels like throwing up," said Nurse Molly, looking at me with very nice eyes. "And I have a headache," I whispered. "I wonder if it's something you ate," said Mom, looking worried. "There's a stomach bug going around," said Nurse Molly. "Oh, gee," said Mom, her eyebrows going up as she shook her head. She helped me get to my feet. "Should I call a taxi, or are you okay walking home?" "I can walk." "What a brave kid," said Nurse Molly, patting me on the back as she walked us toward the door. "If he starts throwing up or runs a temperature, you should call the doctor." "Absolutely," said Mom, shaking Nurse Molly's hand. "Thank you so much for taking care of him." "My pleasure," answered Nurse Molly, putting her hand under my chin and tilting my face up. "You take care of yourself, okay?" I nodded and mumbled, "Thank you." Mom and I hug-walked the whole way home. I didn't tell her anything about what had happened. And later, when she asked me if I felt well enough to go trick-or-treating after school, I said no. This worried her, since she knew how much I loved trick-or-treating. I heard her say to Dad on the phone, "He doesn't even have the energy to go trick-or-treating." "No fever at all." "Well, I will if he doesn't feel any better by tomorrow." "I know. Poor thing. Imagine his missing Halloween." I got out of going to school the next day too, which was Friday, so I had the whole weekend to think about everything. I was pretty sure I would never go back to school again. Whew, goodness. So you can see how much words impact people, how the things we say and the way we treat people can just truly impact just how worthy they feel, how valuable they feel. So I definitely think we collected a lot of good evidence about why we think the author may have written this novel. I'm going to write down my notes and I'll show them to you tomorrow when we pick up at the next chapter. And the next chapter begins part 2. So that was all part 1. And part 2 says Via. All right, Lions, I hope you have a great night. I can't wait to get back to reading this tomorrow. Bye.